I had a massive party at my house, over 100 people invited, and they sent a limousine with the tinted windows to whisk me down to the airport and run me through hair and makeup and get me on set in like 2.5 hours from Los Angeles, and then kept me all night and then sent me back to the hotel. The party, I understand, was terrific. I must say.
Titanic Talk with Nelson Aspin and Alexandra Boyd. Here we feature stories from the independent documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries and everything else to do with the iconic ship. From James Cameron's epic groundbreaking movie to the history and legacy of Titanic herself. Join us and our special guests as we continue the 25th anniversary celebrations of Titanic. This is your first-class ticket to everything aboard the Ship of Dreams.
I am Nelson Aspin, and if you can't see me, if you're listening to this, trust me, I am cozied up in my beautiful new Titanic Talk sweatshirt, because now we offer beautiful merchandise for your comfort and pleasure, whether it's a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, a mug, a tote bag, a cap. We have got it all. We've got everything but life vests, but I suspect that will come in the new year. Welcome to another episode of Titanic Talk, which of course was born of the documentary Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries. And we have one of the stars of that wonderful documentary with us today. I'm going to leave it to my co-host and the filmmaker of said documentary, Alexandra Boyd, to introduce today's guest.
Thank you, Nelson. I just need to mention for the people who are on radio and not on video is that I am wearing my Titanic Talk baseball cap, just to give everyone a visual. And if you need a visual, go to our Titanic Talk shop and buy yourself something that's as cool and funky as these.
I was surprised when I got mine how comfy it was. It really is very comfortable.
Yes,
so
that's a relief. Comfy. Yeah. Odd. Anyway, enough of the plugging. We are here to plug Peter White, who has actually been I would like to say lifelong, because 25 years feels like a lifetime ago, when we met in the bar at the Real Del Mar, or maybe it was before that, in the van from the airport to the bar of the Real Del Mar, as we were both about to embark on our work on James Cameron's Titanic. Unforgettable, and the many evenings supping on margaritas in the bar, and subsequently since he and his wife Victoria have become really wonderful friends of mine in London. And I am so proud to introduce to you Peter White, who played Third Officer Groves of the Californian in Titanic. Peter, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Where are you coming from today, Peter? Where are you in the world?
I'm coming from Blackheath in sunny southeast London.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we love your part in the documentary, but viewers who may have not yet have seen Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, might be scratching their heads going, well, wait a minute, the officer on the Californian, I don't remember that from Titanic. So tell us what your particular unique claim to fame is about your work in Titanic.
My work. I played a seemingly uncuttable role from the film that was crucial to the story. And everyone said whilst I was waiting to film, they said, Pete, they're going to be cutting a lot of things out of this film, but they certainly won't cut the Californian because it's crucial to the story.
Yeah.
Obviously it did. So I'm on another ship, the Californian, that knows about the icebergs, that's sitting in a field of icebergs, knows the Titanic's coming, and we try and tell them, but they won't listen to us. Subsequently, we turned our radio off whilst everyone was drowning. But none of that is shown in the film. The film just bangs into an iceberg without any to do, which is a terrible shame for me, I must admit.
Terribly frustrating, but thank goodness you have that photographic evidence in addition to whatever residual checks or checks you may have received. Actually, you wouldn't get residual checks, would you?
No. I get several cents every 2 or 3 months. The DVD rights for Malta, I think, were a big payer, and I think I got 13 cents for Portugal. The only problem is it cost me $15 to cash a US dollar check in London. So it doesn't really work.
That really is something for SAG-AFTRA to take up one of these days. So tell me, Alexandra, tell our audience about when you became friends with Peter, like how the two of you bonded while shooting down in Mexico.
Well, I think we definitely bonded over the golf cart incident, which it also involved another one of our Titanic Talk podcast guests, Craig Kelly, who was at the wheel. He claims in his version of the story that he was drinking martinis because he thought he was James Bond. At the age of 25, he'd been flown to Mexico to play Harold Bride in James Cameron's Titanic. He was drinking martinis. I don't remember the martinis. I remember the other M word, which was margaritas. And Peter tells the story, but he probably tells it a little bit better than me. Everyone forgets that I was actually sitting in the back of the golf cart that swung around, and the centrifugal force sent Peter clattering onto the tarmac. Why?
You were in the Betty Rubble position. But Peter, since we can go to our Titanic Talk webisodes and hear Craig's version of the story, but let's hear your version of the now infamous golf cart incident.
The hotel we stayed at, I think it was called the Real de Mar, had two bars. There was the free hotel bar, happy hour 5 till 7, and then after that you go down to the restaurant for further drinking. And so we did the happy hour. We had our 2 hours of fun, and then we decided to go down to the restaurant and got the idea we might just pinch a golf cart and head off down there. So Craig jumped into the seat. Obviously, Alexandra was in the back. I leapt into the passenger seat, holding a drink and a cigarette, so I couldn't hold on to anything. Craig pulled a wonderful sort of 360 and we accelerated away. But unfortunately, I fell out. Still with my drink and cigarettes, obviously.
Never spilled a drop, eh?
Never spilled a drop. No. That's one of my claims to fame. And we had to surrender the golf cart to the security guards and walk down in the end. But fortunately, I wasn't hurt at all because I was so relaxed. A lot of people tense up in these circumstances, but I was very relaxed, I must admit.
Peter, what did you think? What was your reaction when you first saw Ship of Dreams, having done your interview bit with Alexandra, but then when you saw the finished film?
It was wonderful. It was really lovely to see all of my old friends from the Titanic. I made so many friends. I was there for I think 3 months, maybe longer. So I made a lot of good friends. Linda Kearns, and we used to all have lunch together, even though we weren't working most of the time. We'd go down to the set and have fabulous meals that had been helicoptered in from San Diego. Wonderful times. We had a lot of fun.
I want to find out more because we know about Alexandra's audition. What was entailed for your tryout?
Well, they called me in for 3 or 4 different auditions. I think for somebody on the Carpathia and something. And by the time I think I got to the Groves one, I was quite oblivious. So you just had to go to producer's room 2 or something at Warner Brothers, and I just sort of went in, did my thing, and went away. And then got a call a couple of days later. My agent got a call saying, "Oh, we'd like Peter to pop down to Mexico. A couple of days' work. We'll pay you for a week." Well, wonderful.
A couple of days that turned into, you say 3 months. I always thought it was more like 6 months, like the entire duration, because you were on wet weather cover. They were waiting because you were an indoor, you were an interior scene. And they were doing all the stuff outside on the ship as it was sinking. And they had this plan that if it started to rain or for whatever reason, they could switch to you, the Californian, and just spend a day doing that instead, but it just never rained.
Well, that's it. That's it. One of the startling characteristics of the desert-like Baja Peninsula is that it very rarely rains. So I was there for months. I mean, even when I wasn't on set, I went back to Los Angeles for a month, and I was still on cover. And they called me back in the middle of it and sent me away again. It looked like
Didn't you arrange a party? Wasn't it one of those typical incidences where you had a big party, everyone showing up, and they sent a car to take you to the airport because they needed you on set that night?
I had a massive party at my house, over 100 people invited. and they sent a limousine with the tinted windows to whisk me down to the airport and run me through hair and makeup and get me on set in like 2.5 hours from Los Angeles, and then kept me all night and then sent me back to the hotel. The party, I understand, was terrific. I must admit.
What content did you get to shoot?
We did the principal scene where I'm discussing the Titanic's radio thing with Evans, my scene partner, and then another long shot with me looking out over a sea of icebergs. So it was all done. We filmed it at 3 a.m. Was sort of the only people on set. It was Russell Carpenter, Linda Hamilton, James Cameron, and other crew, and Adam Barker and myself. So it was fantastic. And at the end, Linda Hamilton went, "Oh wow, you were great, guys! Oh my god!" It was splendid. And then we were whisked back to the hotel, had breakfast, and then taken to the airport.
Did you know then that you were done? You were wrapped. You were actually like, okay, that really is it now.
Yeah. Because they were like, right, you are done. I think my agent had been complaining because she wanted me back in LA to do auditions or something. So because James Cameron said, "Oh, I know you guys need to go," or something like that. So the Lightstorm sent me my bits on tape almost immediately afterwards, and then I'm on the Titanic collection disc 3, scene 19.
There was one DVD issue that had all of a whole bunch of deleted scenes on it. So the fans, what I call the dyed in the wool fans, are very familiar with you and the fact that you didn't make it. So they're really excited that you're in Ship of Dreams Titanic movie diaries, because then they get the full backstory of what it's like to be an actor. And it could have, it happened to me to a slightly lesser degree, that you do all this preparation, you film all of these weeks or days or months, or sit around and don't film for weeks and days and months, and then what your contribution is a greatly reduced amount compared to your participation at the time. And that's just a very, very common thread through supporting actors' careers. It's always a bit of a crapshoot to show up at the screening and see how much of you is left in the project. Tell me a little bit about, I think there's some fun stuff about your family, your boys, who have grown up with this story. And aren't you sort of like put on notice now that you can't tell the Titanic stories?
They're a bit tired of the Titanic story. So I have to be very, very careful how I do it. I got about 90 different ways of weaving it into dinner party conversation, from the salt or whatever. And I'm like, it's an interesting thing about salt, and then connect it somehow with the sea and then the Titanic. And also, there's also like a family competition as to how quickly I can do it with strangers. So at a dinner party, I meet somebody I don't know. How quickly can I spin it around to the Titanic? And it's about 90 seconds, I think my record is, to get the whole thing done and dusted. So there's a certain degree of pride in that, I must admit.
Well, your family may have heard it a zillion times, but I'm sure whenever you have a fresh audience, they are completely enthralled with it.
Oh, indeed, yes. Well, out of the Ship of Dreams, some Titanic fans contacted me and invited me to come and see them. I met them in a wine bar in the West End of London.
Oh, that's right. Ilka and Dale, and Roberto and Rolf, I think.
Yes, indeed, yes. And I signed pictures, they printed out pictures of me, and I signed them and put little personalised things on everything.
Lovely.
But those are very exclusive. There's not one other Titanic fan on the planet that has that kind of a signed photograph. I think that's rather special.
Indeed, yes, it was a splendid evening. It was great to be with fans.
It's the whole concept of films that I'm sure every actor from us to Meryl Streep has stories about being cut out and what was on the cutting room floor. I did a film with Judge Reinhold in my teenage years called Off Beat. completely eradicated from it. And then the worst, it's notoriously the worst film of all time. You guys were in the best film of all time. I was in the worst film of all time, Ishtar, which really, looking back on it, really wasn't so bad. But I had 3 lines and they were all cut. They're just like a couple of shots of me. But are there any, do either of you have any other cutting room floor stories?
No, that's my big cutting room floor story. I don't know about you, Alexandra. Have you been cut out of anything?
No, because most of my other stuff was either TV commercials in the US and in the UK, mostly sort of BBC English stuff where the budgets are so constrained that they use everything they shoot, I think.
But you had a
A
great
couple of
role in
times,
Mr. Holland's Opus. Mr. Holland's Opus, you were on
yes,
a lot, but was
yeah.
there something significant that you did shoot that wasn't in there?
No, not that I remember now. No, no. No, I think Titanic was just, it was so unique for having that huge budget and allowing all of us to really be on, on call or in Mexico for that time. It was just, I guess somebody decided it was easier to keep us all on the payroll in case these, weather or, oh, we need to switch gears and go to another scene right now. So, hurrah for us. I do remember, collecting our per diem from the office in cash and then sort of going into the town and going, right, what are we eating for dinner tonight? Pizza or more Mexican food?
Do you
Yeah.
think that all the controversy now with SAG-AFTRA and just the business in general about AI and how artificial intelligence can replace human beings' creative work, do you suppose if Jim Cameron were making Titanic today, it would be that you guys would have been used the way you were used then? Like, or would AI essentially replace a lot of your work? Is it a valid fear for actors?
I think probably no, not for the scenes that we were cast to play. But when you think of all of those huge aerial shots with the little CGI guys, which was very revolutionary at the time, but now always looks a little dated with them walking on the decks and along. I think that those crowd scenes and the scenes on the dock at Southampton, as it is, they're repeated. There are many more people on that dock, or appear to be, than were there on the day, even though I remember there being a lot of people there that day. Is that you can increase extras and background players much more easily. To repeat a performance, you still have to have the actor there to start with to be able to repeat it. That's my feeling. But I do think that AI is here and it's here to stay, and it's not creeping around the corner. It's right in front of us, and they can do what they want. They can do what they want.
Well, I think one thing to note with AI, with an actor, you can get them to do it 12 different ways and say, okay, do it again, with a different feeling, do it again and try and put a different meaning to it, and so on and so on. So with AI, it's going to be just some sort of computer techie guy trying to work out how to do it. So you can't get 12 different takes, in half an hour with AI, or not yet. I mean, I'm sure at some stage maybe. But that's why they need this. That's why I think.
Peter, what took you from Los Angeles back to London? Now, so you're living there full time now? Have you left LA altogether?
Whilst we were finishing off with the Titanic, I met a beautiful English woman, a journalist, and so we sort of got together, and everything was wonderful. She was, in fact, the person that told me I'd been cut out of the film. She said, "Oh, yeah, I've been to a sneak preview. You're not in it." Not one to pussyfoot around with these things. And then she left, went back to London, and so I had to think, well, do I stay in Los Angeles or do I go back to London for love? So I went back to London just to see, and I thought, no, this is something I can do. We've got wonderful. We've been married 23 years, I think.
Congratulations,
boys, and absolutely fantastic. The acting hasn't completely dried up. I have like a sort of middle European look, so I've done commercials in like Greece for telephones and things like that. And I played a Randy Rabbi in a short film recently, which was a bit of a stretch, I must admit, but it was very entertaining. Yes, I had to be in a cupboard with a model from Made in Chelsea. Going to have to do multiple takes.
So I need to point out that you're also an incredibly talented builder and renovator, and you're on like I'm calculating like your fifth renovation of old houses in London and turning them into these. Between you and Victoria, who has the design acumen and your ability to find amazing pieces on eBay and so forth, you're now on your what house number are you on now renovating?
It might be more than that. It's probably like 6 or 7. So this one is totally different because it belonged to Anthony Powell, who's a 3-time Oscar winner. So we won 3 Oscars, costume design. He did costume design for 101 Dalmatians and 102. A lot of the Indiana Jones things. He's a real sort of proper guy. And we still have his decor. He decorated the place in the 1960s. So we have wonderful sort of fabric wallpapers and stuff, and the place is magnificent with like 12-foot ceilings and so on and so on.
Do you think you'll be able to keep any of it, or is it so tattered and tired it has to come down and be redone?
It's a tricky thing. I want to keep elements of it. There's a pin board in the conservatory that he used to pin up all of his designs and things on. I'd really like to keep that. And I've got a photograph of him standing in the conservatory with his studies for Hook. He also did the costumes for Hook. He's holding a little A4 study for Hook with his pinboard next to him with all the designs and things on. So,
were they there? You found them like in cupboards and things. I mean, how did you get hold of those?
No, I found the pictures online actually in his obituary. So I found the pictures, and then I found various other things. I found some of his clothes in a suitcase in a cellar. Inside the suitcase, he'd been to Siena with Trevor Nunn to scope out a film location. So they went on a saga holiday, which is a package holiday for OAPs, for seniors, I should say, seniors. So there are all the tickets and things like that from the Saga life insurance. And there was a wonderful line drawing of Anthony Powell done by Trevor Nunn. That was and I can do a little cutaway to it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this drawing up here, I can't line it up. That drawing there was on a placemat from a restaurant. So obviously they were sitting in a restaurant in Siena, and Trevor Nunn was like, "Oh, darling, I need to do a drawing of you," and then it was in his suitcase. I sort of scribbled on it. I unfolded it all. It's amazing.
I have to tell you,
I love that.
I met Alexandra because of drawing on a tablecloth. Did that? Alexandra and I met 30 years ago, the late 80s. We
Max Seafood Grill
Max
on the
Restaurant.
Upper West Side.
She was the server, I was the customer, and I drew it's cheaper than a gratuity. I drew a cartoon of Alexandra, and we got to talking. We waited for her shift to end. We had a few drinks, and our friendship was born. But you don't still have that caricature, do you?
Somewhere deep in storage.
Well,
it's going to come out one day when I have a house to put it in.
We'll frame it like Trevor Nunn. That's amazing. I want to circle back to Titanic while we have a few minutes left, Peter. We talked to a lot of the actors about who played real life characters. So tell me about did you ever at any point get involved in researching your character or sort of having a fascination with him?
Yes. So I did quite a lot of research into Algernon Groves. He subsequently became a shipwreck investigator. So I think he might have probably felt more than a twinge of guilt over the whole thing. The story is that he was actually on the deck of the Californian and could see the Titanic on the horizon firing white rockets. And he said to his crewmate, "Oh, look, they're firing white rockets. It must be some sort of white star line signaling thing," not realizing that the Titanic had omitted to load any red rockets, and so they all had white. So they stood there and watched the ship fire the white rockets. Then he said to his crewmate, "I'll tell you something interesting, because looking over there, it looks like the stern of the ship's up a bit. But that's just a trick of the lights. When a ship's on the horizon, quite often the stern looks a little high. So they were actually watching the ship start to sink as the light was fading, I guess. So there was that. The ship, the Californian, like the Carpathia, both of them got sunk in World War One, which was just a couple of years later. Algernon Groves lived until 1960, which is actually the year I was born. So there's a little overlap there. You might want to cut that out by my age.
No, maybe you've, you know, I've in the documentary, I talk about my connection to Milton Long. So, I mean, maybe you're sort of picking up the mantle for him spiritually. Maybe there's some sort of karmic thing for that.
Oh, Nelson, we found so many connections and concentric circles and you know, threads through connected to this ship. It's quite extraordinary. We didn't expect that when we started this podcast, did we?
No, I mean, it's aside from your being able to be a raconteur about your time on the set of James Cameron's Titanic, does Titanic play a part in your life in any other ways now?
Not really, no.
So it's not a hobby or an ongoing fascination for you. It was just a job.
It was a life experience. I mean, it was a fantastic thing. I mean, as we said, we're all still in touch. You know, so many friends through that wonderful period all those years ago. So no, it was a fantastic thing, and I don't regret it at all. I mean, what a wonderful experience.
Close out our episode with a reading that we didn't get to experience in the documentary.
What you have to know is, in the hotel we were staying, they had a happy hour every evening from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. Free beer and wine, basically all you can drink. So the diary entry. One day we were invited to a Thanksgiving party at Francis Fisher's beach house. We made a very late entry after the 2-hour happy hour at the hotel. On arriving, we mingled in the crowd. Several people asked me if I'd met Jim. Jim? Who's Jim? I said, I don't know Jim. Anyway, so I had a few margaritas, and finally I bumped into somebody, and he said that somebody said, "Oh, Peter, this is Jim." And I was like, "Oh, hi, Jim. You know, what are you doing here? What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm the director." So obviously I was a little flustered there. So immediately I blurted out, "Oh, are you going to do any other films after this one?" And then subsequently we fell into quite a long conversation. I drank several more margaritas sitting at the kitchen table with him, and unfortunately fell asleep. And as he left, he just woke me up and said, "You know, I think you're really crazy." And so, so it was a fantastic evening. I think he had fun as well, because during the evening people said, "Well, we must do this again." He was like, "Yeah, no, this would be great," but we never got an opportunity. Probably he was probably too busy directing, I would assume. But it was a wonderful thing.
Never say never. There could be another James Cameron film in your future.
Yeah, Titanic 2. Yeah.
Or Avatar 7, if we're all still alive.
Californian. I think they could make a film about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think they absolutely should. We're so excited that you're part of our Titanic talk and Ship of Dreams family. And I love that you got to meet Dale and Ilka. And it is an extraordinary phenomenon that we acknowledge quite often, this ever expanding circle of Titaniacs and Titanic related friends. And now, you know, forever in each other's clutches. It's a blessing.
Indeed. And now I've got one other little concentric circle to throw into the thing. The house next door was, up until 10 years ago, the house of Bernard Hill. Bernard lived at number 8, and I'm at number 10. So, which is quite remarkable. Out of the whole world, how I'd come to live next door to where he used to live.
Wow! Did he move back to Suffolk properly? Because I know I'm from Suffolk, and I've bumped into him there a couple of times.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, he moved back there with his son. But he must have still been living here when he was doing the film. So very, very strange. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Small world, small world.
All roads lead to the
Titanic.
Ship of Dreams.
Indeed.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much, Peter. It's so lovely to see you. Good luck with your new renovation. I watch on Instagram. Tell us what your Instagram is, and Victoria's too, so people can follow your house renos if they're interested in that.
It's We Bought a London House.
We
All
Bought
one
a
word.
London House. And you can see all the other London houses as well. It's quite amazing.
And the French house.
And a French house. It continues. It goes on and on.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, hit the subscribe button. For information on where you can see Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, go to shipofdreamsfilm.com. Titanic Talk is a production of Ship of Dreams Film Limited. To celebrate Season 2 of Titanic Talk, we've launched a line of Titanic Talk merch. A cap, a mug, a tote, a t-shirt or a hoodie, you'll be sure to find a unique gift for the Titaniac in your life. Look for the link in the notes and on Instagram, or go to bit.ly/Titanic Talk Shop.